This one deserves this music because this machine should have never been released with this design. It's just a really stupid design.
Out on the range where the wild winds blow, there was a dream in the making, a project to show. We'd count on the plans that were drawn up so fine, but little did we know it would all fall in line. Oh, the engineer's blunder, it brought us to tears.
Got another Betamax. You'll see in a minute why this is a stupid design, and it is asinine. This is SLHF750. Apparently the tape is stuck inside it, so before powering it up, I'm going to top out the top. This one was shipped in along with an SLHF900. Apparently it was an eBay purchase at one time. I'll read you the notes that came in with it. Just a second, as soon as I get the top off. And we'll proceed to see what the problem with this one is. Grab a coffee, we're going to be here a while. And how bad it is, and what we need to do to fix it. Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. It's got multiple problems that need to be resolved, and oh, this is just, well, this is Nightmare on Elm Street. This is the most complex mechanism Sony ever made. Oh yeah, did a good job. There's tape where tape is not supposed to be. Outside the cassette, it's ripped. The cassette is ripped, although it's at the beginning, so we'll my favorite design, because you got to get the cassette out before you can open it. Does it power up? Powers up. See if the open and close button will work. Why are we stuck? That's one of the three problems this one has. This one was always my least favorite of the designs, and well, the reason for it is because of this. I mean, it was over the top. Like, why Sony thought that this would appeal to people, to have a tray slide out and then a mechanism lift up to put a cassette in. It just doesn't, like, it didn't make any logical sense why they did this when they did. It adds this complex array of wires that have to shift back and forth every time you load it and unload it. That's a point of failure right there. But I mean, it just added a lot more mechanical complexity to an already complex system with no benefit. Like, what was the benefit of this? There wasn't any. We already had a front loading design where you just put the cassette in. We already had that. We had that for years. Why they went and did this is was beyond me, and probably beyond just about everybody else that saw it. And it just added more complexity to an already complex machine, which just made things that much more likely to break. And in this case, it's stuck. So I got to figure out why it's stuck so I can get the cassette out. What I'm afraid is that there's gears here that are broken. That's what I'm afraid of. Is I'm afraid some of these gears might be broken, and that's why it's jammed. But I can't see them at this point. I think if I remove this bracket will lift off, I think, and then I might be able to lift the mechanism out. It's been so bloody long since I've worked on one of these machines, and I haven't worked on many because we didn't sell very many of them. I think that comes off there. Then I can get access to the actual mechanism itself. It's still stuck. Like, this should just slide right out. Should be able to spin the loading motor over here. Get the power off right now so it doesn't try to turn on. Should be able to spin this motor, and in turn the whole mechanism should just slide out. but it's not. This gear is jammed. Sticking on something, that's for sure. But what? That's what I don't know. What is it sticking on? The screws are out, so it should just slide straight out. But something is jamming. That's what it looks like with the bottom removed. You can see this is the mechanism here, and it didn't want to move. Something is jamming. It's probably broken gears in the side here. More than likely, that's where the fault is. It's got some gears that are broken here, and they're just not going to cooperate with us. It's likely what the fault is. I can't really get the front panel off because this is in the way. This is in the way to prevent the front panel from being lifted off too. Okay, appears that it's stuck right here at the front. Trying to get this front panel off of it, it's just a, okay, you guys see it? It does not want to go over the front because it's solid all the way around, so I'm trying to get this thing off of here. It appears it was just jammed up right here at the front, and that's why it wasn't moving. So we'll get this front cover off all the way so that I can examine the rest of it without this front cover on. Let's see if we can figure out why it was sticking. Let's eject. Okay. We'll shut the power off there just so it doesn't try to go back down. And figure out why this tape is so jammed up. What is it stuck on? The tape is wrapped around something inside here. Oh, it's wrapped around the pinch roller and everything else. Yikes. Okay, let's just try to get this thing back up. Well, we'll have to we'll just snip it. There. Okay. Now I can see what's going on in here. And it's not pretty. Not pretty at all. We have a tape that's wrapped around the capstan shaft. If you guys can see it, I'll see if I can get the camera in here. Kind of like that Super VHS one. It's got a whole whack of tape that is just wound around the capstan shaft inside here. See if I can get a shot of it so you guys can see what I'm talking about. There's a whole bunch of tape that's wound around inside there. I wonder how that got like that. Of course, this is the least accessible mechanism that Sony ever made. This is one that you curse them over, like, whose idea was this? This I think it's a fireable offense coming up with this design. They should have taken this guy out back and I don't know, hung him from a yard arm. That's a little movie trivia, by the way. Points to whoever comes up to where that quote came from. Man, this is gonna be a fun one. Get in there with the pliers and see if I can start to pull this tape out. It's wound in here so good. It's like, Jesus. Maybe if I turn the capstan shaft from below, I can spool it out. Can I even get to it? Yeah, I can still reach it here. Okay. Oh, it's seized up completely. There's so much tape on here that this thing won't even turn. Turn it. Here we go. A little bit out. I gotta get some more than that. I can grab some more tape in here and what a stupid design. I would be mad if I open this up and find this because some bonehead spliced the stupid tape in it. Did it wrong like that last one. That's always a possibility. I'm trying to get the tape to unravel here from the pinch roller, or not pinch roller, sorry, the capstan shaft. But it's wound in here really, really tight. But I might be able to snag it and grab it. That's what I'm hoping. I know you guys can't see it because of the angle, but that's what I'm working on, so I might as well shut off the camera while I deal with this, because there's no way I don't think I can show you guys. Maybe if I tip this thing enough. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it or not, but it's way back inside here. I'm going to try to grab this with the needle nose pliers and turn. Okay, I've got some progress here. There we go. There we go. I've got some tape coming out now. You guys can probably see that. Okay, there's the tape that was wrapped around. Why did the tape get stuck? Was it spliced? What's here? That's just ripped. Okay, well there's, I mean, the tape doesn't look sticky, but maybe something was sticky on the pinch roller. It's got some holes in the tape here. Well, the tape's out. That's a good thing. Let's see if I can clean this thing. Is it dirty? I'll load the mechanism back in. Maybe it's a little easier to access once I close it up here. Somehow, if I can find that stupid power button. There we go. Now there's still tape. I can still see there's still tape that's sticking out here that's wound around something else. Grab that and take that out of there. Another piece of broken tape. Alright, let's see if this thing will close. Okay, well, that works. Opens. Closes. That part's good. Eject. Sticking. Ah, this motor slipping is what's going on here. This motor is slipping here. You see? The motor shaft, the nylon collar is cracked on the gear here, the motor. That's why it's slipping. If we watch down here, you'll see that slips really easy. Eject. This is slipping. So we got to deal with that. We got to deal with that motor first. Did I say how much I hated these machines? This was the one beta machine that I dreaded we only sold a couple of them, but when it came in for service, it was one that we just dreaded just because of this stupid design. 40 years later, my opinion on this design has not changed one little bit. But you see, these machines were popular in beta circles because it was the first machine that brought back beta 1. It would record on beta 1 as well as beta 2 and beta 3, and it would record beta 1S, if I'm not mistaken. Looking at the front here. Where's the switch? Yeah, you see? Record mode. Beta 1S, beta 2, and beta 3. It was a 3-speed recorder. And it was one of the first machines that brought back beta 1S, other than the SLHF750, which had not only beta 1S, but beta 1SHB. And this was a lot less money than the 1000 because it doesn't have flying erase heads or anything. So there were a few of these sold, and I cursed every single last one of them that sold because, well, they're just a pain in the ass to work on. I got to get this motor out so I can fix that. I can see the crack on here right now. It's right facing the top here. If we look, zoom the camera down there. And what's happening is the motor shaft is slipping, so it's not providing enough torque to open and close it properly. That's one of our faults. There's probably other things, but that's a major one right there. I'm kind of going to let the camera run here a bit as I work on this. I'm trying to figure out how to get this out. I think if I take this bracket out, I might be able to undo the motor. I don't want to rip the entire mechanism apart. That's the last thing I want to take out is the entire mechanism, because it will be a real pain in the ass. If I take out this bracket, though, I might be able to get. I just want to take the motor apart or lift the motor out and this is one that's preventing it. If I take that out, now I should be able to get to the screws here, remove the screws, and lift the motor out while leaving the rest of the mechanism intact. And hopefully it can glue that piece back on. I'm living in a dream world. It's going to have to come apart because there's a problem with it. I'll put the screws back in here to hold that bracket in place because I really don't want it moving while I take the motor out. I just like to be able to slip the motor out from the back here so that I can fix the part that I know is broken. There we go. This is what I want. I want the motor and I want everything else just to stay where it is, because the piece I want to repair is on the end of the motor shaft. Turn this and get it out of here. There we go. I'll unplug. Does that plug in? Oh, it plugs in on the other end. This needs to be glued on to this motor shaft. We're going to mix up some epoxy and we're going to glue that on there and let it set up, and then put it back together and see if that fixes at least one of the problems on there, the loading problem. Here's the notes that came in case anybody's interested. This is another one of those betas you're so enamored with. Yeah, exactly. The unit was purchased many years ago on eBay. Arrived with a strange eject problem. Oh, that was probably there. That was that at the same time. Cassette holder pops up, motor whirs, and then holder snaps back down spontaneously and retracts, which gives barely enough time to insert or remove a tape. He said, I seem to recall the unit working all right beyond this problem. Cassette is stuck in machine. Beta case is in the package. Yes, I've got it. When the machine was put in service again the other day, at first tapes would play and come out except there'd be slack hanging out of the cassette. Then things went very wrong. You think? Alright. I guess I can use this. Oh, he's got music on the back. He's got music for Can't Fight This Feeling from REO Speedwagon on the back side of the symptom. Okay, let's mix up some epoxy and we'll get this thing glued and see if that will at least alleviate one of the problems and see why it's eating, why there's tape hanging out of the end of the cassette when it ejects, which it shouldn't do. I'm trying to get this in before the glue sets up because I want to be able to use the glue to actually cement it to this other shaft if I can. So I'm going to get the shaft in here so that it will at least try to hold the thing together properly. Because this tape is broken, it's right at the beginning, so I'll splice the tape. I don't know how much we're going to lose from the beginning. We're probably going to lose a minute or two, but yeah, we're fairly close to the start of the tape here, so might lose a couple minutes at the beginning. But I think that's probably the best way to deal with this, rather than splice it in the middle. There's only a few feet of tape. So I think what we'll do is we'll splice this back to the leader, and yeah, he's lost, the first minute or so. I don't think we'll have lost anything critical off the tape, but I certainly don't want to splice tapes in the middle unless I absolutely have to. I mean, you can do it. You put your splicing tape on the back, but if something's broken, like right at the beginning, you just lop it off. And you lose a little bit at the beginning, big deal, right? You've got the rest of it, so let me just get this set up. I gotta find my snips wherever I did with them. I know they're here, I've just used them. I used them to open the box, there it is. So we'll cut off the section that's bad, maybe like right about there. And we'll go back to the metallic leader. Again, trim. Make sure there's no adhesive showing. Not that it would ever get to the heads because it's on the leader, And that's another reason why you always try to splice back to the leader if possible, because then there's no chance whatsoever that the tape is going to be coming in contact with anything. Alright, this thing's been drying for a period of time. Let's see whether it works. That part works. How about eject? That part works. That's good. It's not retracting. Oh, it did. Why did it retract? Why did it retract? There must be a switch that's not getting activated or something when it's ejected. Or it's detecting. Let's just see it. Let's eject it again here. Because this should stay up. It's closing up again after you open it. There's a switch right down here to indicate whether it's ejected or not. You can see it. That's that circuit board there. You see that's a rotary encoder that's driven from little contacts on this gear here. We can get a shot of cleaner down there. So how that switch operates is it doesn't operate until you hit the eject, and that signals that it's ejected. If that switch is not signaling, it doesn't know that the tape is ejected, and it will usually load it again, which is probably what's going on here. It'll try to load it before you press the button. That's more than likely where that fault is the switch is not being read, or the contacts are worn out or something, or even maybe the gear itself is damaged. So we need to remove the mechanism to inspect. Something I didn't want to do, but I'm going to have to. So it's a little easier to do if I flip the circuit board out of the way, so I'll pull a couple of screws, we'll lift the board out of the way, and then the mechanism, the planetary gear set, and the half gear, the half load gear, should lift out on that bracket. This is the motor assembly with the mode switch for whether the cassette is up or down over on the side here. See if those contacts are being made on this board. See if we can take this apart or remove the cut washer here. It's a planetary gear set, as you can see. Changes the power from one to the other. Remove that. Lift this one off and check out those contacts underneath there, which appear to be broken. Well, that would explain why they're not working. Those are supposed to be in here like that, and they're broken. That's why it's doing what it's doing. So let's see if we can secure this back down in here. We'll just try to melt some plastic and put those contacts back in where they belong so that they can actually signal the switch. I was wondering why it wasn't working. Well, that explains it right there. Broken switch. Broken contacts on the switch. This is held in place. They just basically mushroomed over plastic. That's what held this in place. So we'll put the switch contacts back in and try to use a soldering iron to get it back in place. At least there's a little bit of the tab where it was sitting is still there on one side, so at least I can get the alignment set up. kind of goes like that to hold that in place. Can't set it down anywhere because there's a pin sticking out of the bottom. So I'm going to try to hold that in place and get the soldering iron in there and melt some plastic so that this will stay in place. There. It's back in position. Oops. Hopefully that'll work. Get the planetary gear set back in place. How this works is normally when the power is being applied to the motor, it turns the planetary gear set, which sends power to this gear. Once this gear gets to the end of its travel, or it's going this way, once it gets to the end of its travel and the mechanism hits the end of its travel, that stops, that gear turns, that's what lifts the cassette up. And then when the cassette goes back down, once the cassette gets down to the end of its travel, it now transfers power back to this gear. That's how the planetary gear sets work. Now I've got to put this back together. You got to get the pins lined up. They drop into holes, so I'm just kind of working on this to get the alignment correct. Once it locks into place, then we should be good. And I think I've almost got it. Yeah, I've got it now. Okay, I'll drive a couple screws in here just to hold the mechanism in place. Actually, I could probably put this back on at this point. This goes on like that on top of the bracket. This is just to reinforce everything and hold everything in place. Flip the board back over, plug in the two plugs for the switches, and see if it's going to work. got a little bit of slippage here, but you see now it doesn't go down, it stays up. And when I press the open close key on the front here, it should go back in. That's what it's supposed to do. It's still slipping a bit here. The epoxy I put on is slipping a little bit because that gear's cracked, but if I press the eject button, it does open fully now, which is what we want. We want it to open and close fully. It slips a bit, yeah. I don't know if I can do anything about that. I've glued it in place, but it's still, you're gluing a plastic part that's cracked onto a metal shaft. They're never going to be perfect. Sometimes when these ones wear out, you kind of got to help them a bit. Just help it out. If you help it out, it's fine. Okay, that part is good. Now I'm happy. Now it's working like it's supposed to. That switch came apart inside there. And that's the first time I've seen that ever happen on one of these, by the way. Not that I've seen a lot of these machines, because they were, there wasn't that many of these sold. I've worked on a handful, and by a handful I mean probably less than 20 of these SLHF750s. I've worked on a couple for the fellow that owns this, but before that I worked on a handful of them when I was in the business. And we did have problems with the front, this mechanism. We've had that big black gear that had the switch on the back of it. I've had to change the half gear. I've had the half gear break, and I've had this break before as well. Back when you could get the parts, right? Back when you could get the parts. Now you're not going to find any parts for this, so we have to kind of try to make things work with what we've got. Now, I'm going to throw the front face back on it. You have it hanging over the edge of the bench, and you just put it on like that, and then just, see, not so bad. Make sure all my switches are in the down position so that all the switches will line up with their little switches accordingly on the button caps. Otherwise you'll end up with buttons that are out of sync. They go under here like this, and then they flip up like that. There we go, that's better. Okay, let's try it now. Power on. And oh, it's sticking on this. That's what it's sticking on. It's sticking on it's sticking on this front piece. Okay, that's interesting. What the heck is it? Where is it sticking? Is there a piece of plastic that's broken, or what is going on? Oh, it's over here. I can see it right here. This piece is sticking out. There's a piece of plastic on the left side of this loader that is sticking out. Can you guys see it? Here, it's right there. That's stuff that's sticking out. I gotta figure out why that's sticking out. Oh, you know what? There's a screw that's missing. That's why. There's a screw that's missing on here. Well, that would explain everything. This sits on it. That's actually a pin that this sits in on this side, like that. Okay, now this screw can go back in on this other side to hold this in place. I think that will do it. Magnetic screwdrivers are great until they start picking up screws off the bench that you don't want them to, and sticking to the screwdriver, and then you lose them. There. That's in place now. That pin is in on this side. Let's try putting the front cover back on it once more and see if it'll work and not stick. Close. There. Aha! Eject. Yes. Yes, that's what it's supposed to do. Excellent. Making progress. Let's try it out. And so far so good. Am I going to get a picture? I see the tape is turning. I got a picture. Excellent. The machine is working. And see what it is in beta hi-fi here, not super beta. That's better. Oh, here's a good example. I'll show you the screen. This is super beta tape. I'll show you what happens when you play it on a regular beta machine or turn the super beta off. All right, see the streaking here? That's because this is a super beta tape and the super beta switch is off. Turn it on and they go away. That's over modulation, you see? Hit the eject. And out comes the tape. You didn't see that. I forced it to load the thread the cassette by pressing down the cassette in switch. There's two of them. One is the record lockout switch, and the other one is the record or the cassette down switch. So now it thinks there's a tape in it. I can observe what goes on. Stop button's not very good on this, but. And let's just watch when I hit eject. The take-up spool should, or the supply side spool should spin, which I'm sure it does. Not spinning as fast as it should. Let's go and investigate. That's why it's leaving some tape hanging out. To get it to load, I just do that. And that'll force the loading cycle. Now we can inspect the bottom and see why it's not retracting the tape. This one actually has a separate reel drive motor, so we'll just pop the bottom off here so we can inspect the pendulum gear and stuff and see what's going on. I think I can get at it from here. And this should, I'm going to turn off the power. I don't want to lose my fingers. Let's do that. And this one's got the standard. I can pull this bottom out to get to the reel drive motor and the pendulum gear. Take out these screws. Last one here. And the entire reel assembly will drop down. The problem when you got a design like this that's got mechanisms that slide back and forth is you do have to contain the wires so that they don't get pinched. There we go. Now I can work on this. We'll check out the pendulum gear here and see why it's not providing a lot of torque. That's gummed up. That's why. Yep, that's gummed up there. That motor spins okay, but this is was sticky. I'll have to lubricate this. Okay, let me just get some oil. We'll lubricate the shaft here and this bearing because it's dry and it's sticking big time. Just a drop on there. We'll free this one up big time. Should anyway. Without even having to do much else. Just throw some oil in there and turn it a bit. Now this thing slips off. No problem. No more sticking. Now if I want to lubricate the bearing below here, I can. I just have to take off the supply and take up hubs. And lift up the motor. Just enough to get this over the top so that I can lift off the hub. And then I can lift off the motor. So I can put some lubricant under here onto the other bearing. Put some oil on here. That should be plenty. Back on like that. We'll throw this hub back on. Back tension brake back around there and pop it into place. Do the same for this one. Got to drop down in the right place. There's a couple little tabs on the bottom here that have to go into the slots. There. Real motor is lubricated. Ready to go back into service. Let's check it out. I'm going to load it down and I'm going to force it to thread the tape up. We'll check our operation, rewind, fast forward, play, and of course the stop button does not want to work there. Sometimes it does. When I hit eject, it should rewind the tape, or it should spool the tape back all the way, which it does, and eject. So maybe the machine's going to work now and not chew up the tape when it's ejecting. So we know it plays because we saw it play before, and it's still playing. So I make sure that it ejects without eating the tape. So there we go. Eject. The tape rolls in, and the cassette lifts up. All right. I think this one's done. I've only been on this thing for like the better part of the afternoon. This is not something that I just said, oh, this is going to be an easy one. No, it wasn't an easy one. It was actually quite a challenging unit to work on. because of the way that this mechanism is laid out. I'm not going to go on to say it's my least favorite mechanism, because I think you guys already know that it is got to be one of my least favorite mechanisms for consumer machines anyway. That's just referring to Sony. I hate all the JVCs. All the old JVCs, I hate them. They're junk. I had a grudge against one of these because when I was measuring RF, doing alignment on the previous one from the same fellow, I forgot about the guillotine effect. When I ejected the tape, right, my probe was stuck on here. Of course, it comes out more, and it guillotined my $60 probe. The gear is still slipping a bit here. There's not much I can do about that, but you know, it's not serious, because in the worst case scenario, all he's got to do is just just help it out a bit. That'll work. You know, it's just that it's slipping a bit here, but it will work on its own. It will get there eventually, right? But that's, I think, about as good as it's going to get. So I'm going to throw the bottom on this one now, and we'll run some tape through it and verify everything's working. So here's the unit playing a Beta 1 SHB tape. As you can see, it plays it perfectly. If I turn the Super Beta off, it looks like crap. But with the Super Beta switched on, it plays it properly. That tape moves along pretty quick in Beta 1. Now think of this spinning 3 times that speed. That's what Betacam spins at. 3 times that. 3 times Beta 1. 6 times Beta 2. This is a L750, will run 90 minutes in Beta 1, 3 hours in Beta 2, and 4.5 hours in Beta 3, 30 minutes in Betacam. And this tape can be used on Betacam. Cannot be used on Betacam SP because that uses a metal tape. But the machines that would accept oxide tapes, they could use regular Beta tapes and they would work just fine. Not quite the same resolution that the metal tapes gave, but still the original Betacam used oxide tape. My machines will play oxide tape, but they won't record it. The Betacam machines I've got, because they're SP machines. Machine has the on-screen display, but you can turn it off from the front panel. Unlike a lot of machines where you need the remote control to do that, this one you can turn it on and off from the front panel, which is important if you're archiving, because some of these machines, the on-screen display, they default to on, and you need the remote to turn it off, and that's always a pain. If you got a machine and you can't find the remote, you don't want that showing up when you're archiving. So having the ability to turn it off without the remote is big. Anyway, this one's pretty much done. See, that gear's going to slip a little bit, but it's not a big problem, because if it slips, all he's got to do is, if it does slip, let's just give it a bit of a pull, and it's fine. The reason it was not working before was because that switch came apart, and it would actually load the tape back again on its own. Now it'll sit there forever. But see, this is what I think about this dumb design. It's like, you know, we're going backwards. Now you got a mechanism that's open. You can get stuff dropped in there. But I don't know, Sony. I don't know what their thoughts were for putting it in a drawer like this when the front loading mechanism had already been perfected, and just adding all this crap. You know, adding that point where the wires bend every time you load it and unload it. That's just asking for trouble, if you ask me. Anyway, we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.